Y'all, what are we gonna do? We're gonna elect Bernie Sanders president, right? So we know we're gonna be going up against some really powerful special interests. We know this, right? And we need to have an awesome machine. So, who here has heard of the Burn app? Anybody? Okay, who here has it on their phone already? Oh, that's not very many people. Okay, everybody take your phone out. Take your phone out. I see y'all, take your phone out. So, to get there, you're gonna go to app.berniesanders.com and you're gonna create an account. And it gives you this opportunity to connect with all kinds of people. Bang, bang, bang. And then you can see who you've spoken with and who you haven't spoken with. And we're gonna do that. So, you guys, app.berniesanders.com. Yeah? People, yeah? All right, are we gonna make Bernie the next president? All right, thanks you guys. Yeah, I got the letter.
Everybody, let's give a warm welcome to Ivan Enriquez.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ivan Enriquez. I'm 22 years old. I'm proud to call Santa Ana, California my home. I volunteer at the California YMCA Youth in Government Legislative Houses program, training high school students to argue about government and laws they propose on their own. I came to know Senator Sanders in 2015 when a group of friends I made in Youth in Government invited me to Los Angeles to hear a little-known presidential candidate speak about his campaign. The platform to transform the political system with respect to healthcare, immigration, and higher education earned my backing wholeheartedly. I attended the Democratic National Convention as a 2016 Sanders district delegate with help from supporters like you through a crowdfund. I fundraised $4,000 in less than 2 weeks before convention, a staggering amount. I've attended every state Democratic convention since 2015 because we need to hold our elected officials accountable to the people, us. California no se vende, se alma y defiende. My representative in the House, Lou Correa, switched his support recently for Medicare for All. As all of you know, Medicare for All has gained huge momentum because of Senator Sanders' advocacy in the 2016 Democratic primaries. Medicare for All is important to me because I know how difficult it is to navigate Medicaid in California. I had a lapse in medication in 2015 when I was starting college, simply for switching county of residence. I had a lapse in coverage recently, simply for applying for CalFresh benefits. That should not happen. The stakes are too high, everyone. Prescription medication from corporations like Gilead for HIV antiretroviral therapy costs $3,000 a month out of pocket. For Truvada, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis, that medication costs $2,000 a month out of pocket. It is nowhere near that price in Australia. We must continue to advocate for a single-payer system in California, which again gained serious momentum because of Senator Sanders' advocacy. Another thing happened in 2014 and 2015. That's the year that Immigration and Customs Enforcement detained my dad, the head of household, and deported him back to Mexico in 2015, all while having an application for legal residency stall for over 15 years. I had just started my senior year in high school, when my dad was ripped away from our house and held 1.5 miles away at the notorious Orange County Theo Lacey jail. Our family dynamic and income quickly changed without my father. My mother, who was also undocumented at the time, received her legal residency. Our immigration system is broken, and Senator Sanders is the real solution we have in 2020 to bring about sustainable change to our immigration and asylum system. Now, Santa Ana is the place that I call home. Santa Ana is the 4th densest city in the country behind New York City, San Francisco, and Boston. But Santa Ana does not have a 4-year public university. Sanders' proposal for free college for all would provide a serious level of equity that our young people deserve following the economic recession leveled by Wall Street. 1/3 of Orange County residents had to relocate due to the cost of housing. We need more public universities to meet the demand we see today in California and across the country for higher education. A high school diploma is no longer the minimum requirement that many jobs ask for today. They ask for more than that. Student debt is crippling those who do graduate from opportunities that would be made available to them otherwise, and that shouldn't happen. And so what we have to do as a movement is coalesce behind Senator Bernie Sanders and fight for a political system that we all can believe in, rather than the one where we're simply trying to catch by. Thank you.
Please give a warm welcome to Sofia Gonzalez.
Wow. All right. Hello, everyone. We are the 99. We are the conscious divine. Not me, us. Just us, for justice. My name is Sofia Gonzalez, also known as the natural cafeína that will awaken the world. I am Colombian American, and I am a public health practitioner. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I grew up in a food insecure household. My mother was on what was then called food stamps. And at school, I was bullied because of that, and I was teased. And so from a very young age, I knew that I was not going to become another statistic. And so I graduated high school with high honors. I graduated from Cal State Long Beach with a bachelor's in Spanish translation, así es, and pursued my master's in public health. Today, I work for a community-based organization, and I'm project manager of a nutrition and physical activity project with funds from the food stamp program that fed me when I was a child. That program today is called CalFresh. Yeah, that's fresh. With that program, I am implementing the Smarter Lunchrooms movement in 9 schools, and I am providing nutrition education in over 25 schools in LA County. Access to nutritious foods is a social justice issue that I am advocating for every single day. And so Senator Sanders believes that students deserve free, locally sourced breakfast, lunch, snacks year-round, okay? And this will result in greater academic achievement and will decrease the risk of chronic disease. No child should be shamed or go hungry because they couldn't pay for a meal. and no parent should be deemed delinquent because they couldn't pay for their child's meal. I am currently working with stakeholders from the California State Department of Social Services to increase CalFresh enrollment, to ensure that no student goes hungry, and to support Senator Sanders' universal free school meal plan. Mi gente, my people, with this campaign, the wise will rise, and the 1%, the 1% will never again undermine the 99. In solidarity, y'all. United as one, we shall become. Peace and love. Thank you.
Please give a warm welcome for Paul Crabiel.
Good afternoon, everyone. We can elect Bernie Sanders President of the United States. My name is Paul Crabiel. I'm a lifelong union activist, first as a union auto worker and then Teamster. I'm one of those white workers that are strongly for Bernie Sanders, and we're going to get the rest of them in this next election. I was also a chief negotiator for 5,000 registered nurses in Los Angeles County, members of Service Employees International Union. And in 2016, I was the coordinator of Los Angeles Labor for Bernie. Now, I, like you, support Bernie because he's got by far the best program. He's talking about fighting income inequality, taking on the billionaire class. None of the other candidates talk about that. He talks about creating a jobs program to put people back to work, supporting unions, fighting for a new Green Deal, fighting against racism and sexism in all forms. Stopping fascists from taking children from their families at the border. And protecting the rights of women to choose. Now, there's many candidates who are expressing support for a lot of these progressive proposals. But there's one big difference between all of them and Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has walked the talk, and he's done it for 40 years. When workers go on strike, Bernie Sanders is on the picket line with them. When workers face a real tough problem, Bernie calls a meeting together to put everybody's heads together to come up with a solution. There's not one other candidate in this race that comes close to the solid working class program and agenda and history of Bernie Sanders. And another, small little detail, he is the strongest candidate to take out the occupant in the White House. And he's the only candidate that will inspire millions of people to dream big and to get involved in building a new future for our country. In the labor movement, we sometimes refer to each other as sisters and brothers. What we mean by that is we're all in this together. We're looking out for each other. We've got your back. It's like a family. And a lot of families and other social organizations do that same thing. So in many ways, Bernie Sanders is a brother to all of us. So let's recommit ourselves. I know everybody here is active in this campaign, but reach out to your neighbors, your coworkers, people that you socialize with, draw them into this campaign so we build the biggest, largest mass movement to make Brother Bernie Sanders the next president of the United States.
Let's give a warm welcome to the one and only Mr. Danny DeVito.
I hope this works. Oh, yes. Well, first of all, thank you all for coming. This is so important to us. We all have to get behind this. We're going to do it together. What we're fortunate about is that we have Bernie Sanders. And I am so excited to hear him, to see him with all these candidates, with all this stuff that's going on, all of this craziness that we have to fix. We're tired of it, right? It can't keep going on. I love you guys. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for letting me come up here and speak my mind. God bless y'all.
Please put your hands together for the co-founder of Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream and National Campaign Co-Chair, Ben Cohen.
Hello, Pasadena. You look beautiful today, let me tell you. You know, before Bernie, I used to be the most famous guy from Vermont. So it is with great pride and joy that I turn that mantle over to Bernie. You know, ice cream is good. But a president of the United States who truly believes in justice in all its flavors, that is euphoric! I'm here because I've been Bernie's constituent for 40 years. And I'm here to tell you he's the real deal. Bernie has inspired me because I've seen him in action. But more than that, you can believe what he says because he does what he says. Yes, he has a vision, but he also has tenacity. Bernie makes things happen that people thought could never be done. You know, I've watched him for all this time, and I think I've figured out what makes him tick. It's love and caring. Bernie is not a politician in the usual sense of the word. He is a fighter for justice, social, economic, racial, and environmental. And he uses politics as a means to that end. You know, in 1981, when he was elected mayor of Burlington, my city, I saw him transform it from being run for the benefit of entrenched business interests to being run for the benefit of everyday people. He fought hard to do it. The old guard was trying to stop him every step of the way. But he persevered and he won, and he transformed the city of Burlington into a model of a great quality of life. His first act was to shut down plans for expensive condominiums that would have privatized the shores of Lake Champlain, and instead he turned it into a park open to everyone. When he became my congressman, he personally took busloads of women with breast cancer over the border into Canada so that they could buy the medications they needed at 1/10 the price of what they had to pay here in the U.S. And then congressman after congressman did the same thing. He voted against NAFTA before being against NAFTA was cool. He voted against going to war in Iraq twice. Then in 2007, he defeated the richest man in Vermont and became my senator. As senator, he worked with conservatives to force the first ever audit of the Federal Reserve Bank, which exposed conflicts of interest and trillions of dollars of loans to Wall Street banks. Then there was a proposal to cut Social Security and veterans benefits. Bernie led the fight against it, and he won. And just last September, Bernie introduced the Stop Bezos Act. That stands for Stop Bad Employers by Zeroing Out Subsidies. It requires large corporations that are paying lousy wages to their employees, who are then forced to go on Medicaid and food stamps in order to get by, to reimburse the federal government for those payments. A month after he introduced it, Amazon raised their minimum wage to $15 an hour. Next week, he'll be at the Walmart shareholders meeting demanding that they do the same thing. And it was Bernie Sanders who brought Republicans and Democrats together to pass a resolution in the Senate to get the U.S. out of the war in Yemen. And now Bernie has been leading the charge against going to war in Iran. he understands that war does not solve problems, it creates more problems. All in all, Bernie has been in Congress and the Senate for over 30 years. And it is that experience in the trenches, in the cesspool of what is our political system today, that will enable him, with the help of all of us, to finally flush the crap down the drain. You know, when Bernie ran for president the first time, and he said he wouldn't take any big money, I thought it was a mistake, that he'd never be able to raise enough money to mount a credible campaign. And then I understood it. He knew that if he couldn't raise enough small donor donations from millions of people, that he didn't want to be president, because then he would never have the army that he needs to push legislation through once he gets elected president. So, what do I think about Bernie, the man? Well, he's always been the same. He never wavers. He has a clear vision for how to make America kind again. He's not a fancy guy. He's pretty down home, no airs, and I like his hairstyle. That never changes either. Bernie doesn't go with the trends, he sets the trends. Small donor-funded campaigns, universal health care, free public colleges and universities. Bernie proposed those ideas back in 2015. He led the way. Look, this campaign is an historic opportunity. Finally, we have a chance to elect a president who is not selected by insider power brokers. But for the first time in my life, we can elect a true candidate of the people. Finally, an opportunity to elect a president who not only has pioneered bold and innovative solutions, but also has 30 years experience in Washington to enable him to get the job done. Finally, a candidate who, instead of being financed by Wall Street, pharmaceutical companies, and the chemical industry, is ready to go to bat for us and rein them in. I know the most important thing this election is defeating Trump. That's the way I feel. That's what Bernie feels. That's what you all feel. And poll after poll after poll has shown consistently that in a general election, Bernie beats Trump. Bernie beats Trump! 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 So we have a choice. We can vote in the primary to get Bernie to be the Democratic nominee, and we can beat Trump with Bernie, or we can vote for some other candidate and just get more of the same old, same old. But I tell you, when we get Bernie elected, and I become the Minister of Ice Cream. I promise a pint in every freezer, a sundae in every bowl. But there's no way we're going to get Bernie elected and you're going to get your ice cream unless we all work together to make it happen. And the first way to do that, something that you can do today when you leave, is to get one of those Bernie bumper stickers that they're handing out for free and stick it on your car. Because the beautiful thing about putting a bumper sticker on your car is that it is a personal endorsement. And thousands and thousands of dollars of TV ads cannot buy that. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, it is now my honor to introduce to you the most amazing fighter for justice that I have ever known, Senator Bernie Sanders! Accompanied by his amazing wife, Jane!
Please welcome the next First Lady of the United States. Whoa. Thank you all. Thank you all. It looks like Pasadena's ready for a political revolution. And today I want to make a major announcement, is that when elected president, we're going to have a secretary of ice cream, a pint of Ben & Jerry's in every freezer. So let me thank all of those who have spoken and all of you who have come out today. It's a great turnout and I appreciate it very, very much. And today I want to welcome you in an unprecedented moment in American history to a campaign which is going to win the Democratic nomination. A campaign which is going to defeat the most dangerous president in American history. And a campaign with your help, which is going to transform this country and create an economy and a government which works for all of us, not just the 1%. And today I want to welcome you to a campaign which says loudly and proudly, that the underlying principles of our government will not be greed, will not be kleptocracy, will not be hatred, and will not be lies. The underlying principles of our government will not be racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, or religious bigotry. And we have news for Donald Trump. We are going to end those ugly practices when we are in the White House. The principles of our government, and you all know that the message of this campaign is us, not me. The principles of our government will be justice, economic justice, racial justice, social justice, and environmental justice. For too long, the working people of this country have been ignored, and we are going to change that. We know that over half of Americans today are living paycheck to paycheck in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And you know what that means, living paycheck to paycheck? I do know, because I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck. And what that means is that if your car breaks down today and you don't have $500 to get that car fixed, you can't get to work. And if you can't get to work, you lose your income. And if you lose your job and your income, you can't take care of your kids. That's what living paycheck to paycheck is about. Living paycheck to paycheck is worrying that if you or a family member gets sick and ends up in the hospital, you will go bankrupt because you can't afford to pay that hospital bill. When we talk about economic justice, we are talking about ending a situation where the younger generation of today, for the first time in American history, will have a lower standard of living than your parents. Younger people are looking at more debt. They're looking at lower real wages. They're finding it harder to afford a home of their own. Well, I have got 4 kids and 7 grandchildren. I do not believe in downward mobility. I believe in upward mobility for this country. So what this campaign is about is bringing the working people of this country together, black and white and Latino and Native American and Asian American. And that is to say, we are sick and tired of the greed of unfettered capitalism. We are sick and tired of seeing our people work 2, 3, 4 jobs while 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%. We are tired of seeing 3 families in America own more wealth than the bottom half of our country, while 500,000 Americans in California and in Vermont and around this country will be sleeping out on the streets tonight. We are tired of a dysfunctional child care system where moms and dads cannot find affordable quality child care when the top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 92%. So today we say to the 1%, and today we say to corporate America, stop the greed. You cannot have it all. This country belongs to all of us, not just the few. Next Wednesday, I'm going to be in Bentonville, Alabama, Bentonville, Arkansas. Know why I'm going to Arkansas? Because that is the location of the headquarters of Walmart. And I have been invited by workers at Walmart to say a few words at the National Walmart Board of Directors meeting in representing their interests. Now, when we talk about a rigged economy, let me tell you what we're talking about. Walmart is owned by the wealthiest family in America, the Walton family. They are worth about $175 billion. And yet this family, the wealthiest family in America, pays its workers wages that are so low that many of those workers are forced to go on food stamps, Medicaid, and public housing. And do you know who pays for those food stamps and Medicaid and public housing? You do. A rigged economy is about when the wealthiest family in the country pays its workers starvation wages and is being subsidized by the working families of this country. So today and on Wednesday, we will say to the Walton family, we are no longer going to provide corporate welfare for you. Pay your workers a living wage. And I'm proud to tell you, 4 years ago when I was here in California, and I want to thank the people of California for the great support you gave us. We got more votes here than any place else in America. And I don't want to get my opponents nervous. We're going to win here in California. And 4 years ago, when I was here in California, we introduced a platform to the American people that many in the media establishment and many in the political establishment said, it's too radical, it's too extreme, the American people won't support it. Well, we ended up winning 22 states, 13 million votes. we ended up getting more votes from young people, black and white and Latino, than Clinton and Trump combined. And most importantly, those ideas that just 4 years ago seemed so radical have now been overwhelmingly supported by the American people. And almost every candidate running, from dog catcher to president, now supports our agenda. In other words, 4 years ago, we began the political revolution. This campaign, we finalize the political revolution. All of you know that real change never takes place from the top on down, always from the bottom on up. That is the history of the labor movement, the history of the civil rights movement, the history of the women's movement, the history of the gay movement, the history of the environmental movement. And what this campaign is about is bringing millions of people together to take a hard look at what's going on in this country and to stand up and fight back and demand real fundamental changes to the way we do business. In this campaign, we are taking on Wall Street, because we are going to break up the large financial institutions that have wreaked havoc on this economy. We're taking on the drug companies, and we're going to cut the cost of prescription drugs by half in America. We are taking on the insurance companies, because we are, whether they like it or not, going to bring a Medicare for all single-payer program to America. We are taking on the fossil fuel industry. And we will tell them that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. Donald Trump thinks he is going to win re-election by dividing the American people up, as demagogues always do, by the color of our skin, by where we were born, by our gender, by our religion, or by our sexual orientation. Well, this campaign is going to do exactly the opposite. This campaign is going to bring the American people together to stand up to the powers that be. And I'll tell you one of the things we're going to do. We are going to end a corrupt political system in which billionaires buy elections. This is the United States of America. We believe in democracy, one person, one vote. We are going to end this crazy gerrymandering which goes on all over the nation. And we are going to end the outrageous level of voter suppression taking place coast to coast. And let me say to you what I have said all over this country. I have run in elections in Vermont. Sometimes I've won and sometimes I've lost. But it has never occurred to me to ever try to figure out who might vote against me and make it harder for those people to participate in the political process. So I say to those Republican governors all over this country who are trying to make it hard for people of color, for poor people, for young people to vote, what I say to them is if you cannot participate in a free, fair, and open election, get the hell out of politics and get another job. We believe that in a democracy, we should make it as easy as possible for people to participate, not make it harder. We want America to have the highest voter turnout of any major country, not one of the lowest. We want to make it easier for young people who are the future of this country to get involved in the political process. Let me say a few words about some issues that have been on the front pages in recent days. And they are issues of concern to all of us. As you know, in states like Alabama, and in Georgia, draconian legislation has been passed and signed which would prevent the women of this country from controlling their own bodies. Now, in my view, a woman's right to control her own body is a constitutional right, and we will defend that right. I have been asked whether I will have a litmus test regarding who I will nominate to the Supreme Court, and the answer is I do. I will never nominate anyone who is not prepared to vigorously support Roe versus Wade. And let me say a word to the men who are here today. This is not just a woman's issue. This is an issue for all of us, and the men have got to stand with the women. And there's been another issue that's been out there. Lately, I've been criticized by some in the media for my views on foreign policy and military policy. So let me tell you what I have told America. I make no apologies as a young person. I make no apologies as a young person long before I was elected to anything for marching with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and millions of others against the war in Vietnam. That war went a long way toward destroying my generation. 59,000 brave men went off to Vietnam and did not come home, and many more did come home, wounded in body, wounded in spirit. God knows how many committed suicide when they got home, and some of them are sleeping tonight on the streets in California. I make no apologies to anyone when, as a member of the U.S. House from Vermont, I helped lead the effort to try to stop the war in Iraq. I make no apologies to anyone for leading the effort in the United States Senate so that for the first time in 45 years we were able to utilize the War Powers Act to win on the floor of the House and the floor of the Senate a vote to get the U.S. out of the Saudi-led war in Yemen. Yemen is a small, poor country which is right now experiencing the worst humanitarian disaster on the planet. We should be providing humanitarian help to those struggling people, not more bombs. And let me also say, I make no apologies today for doing everything I humanly can to stop what John Bolton and some in the Trump administration want, which is a war in Iran. And if you think a war in Iraq was a disaster, a war in Iran will be worse. It will lead to perpetual warfare. Our kids, our grandchildren, never-ending war. Together, we must do everything that we can to try to stop international conflicts through diplomatic means, not war. What is imperative in this moment in history is not just defeating Trump, and we've got to do that, but it is having a vision of a society that works for all of us. Too many people feel ignored. Too many people are working longer hours for lower wages. Too many people can't afford child care. Too many people are leaving school deeply in debt. Too many people have no health care. And they are saying, who cares about us? What this campaign is about, all of us standing together and caring about each other. This campaign is about finally doing what every other major country has done and make it clear that health care is a human right, not a privilege. Health care for all, Medicare for all, single-payer health care. This campaign is going to tell the pharmaceutical industry we are ending their greed. Last year, the top 10 drug companies made $69 billion in profits, and 1 out of 5 Americans cannot afford the medicine their doctors prescribe. Together, we're going to cut drug prices in half in America. This campaign is about saying that if you work 40 hours a week in America, you are not going to be living in poverty. Seven states, including California, have raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And as president, we're going to raise the national minimum wage to $15 an hour. And by the way, we believe in equal pay for equal work. Women should not receive 80 cents on the dollar compared to men. And we believe in the trade union movement. And we're going to make it easier for workers to join unions, not harder. And we are going to create up to 15 million jobs by rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. It is unbelievable but true that there are thousands and thousands of homes right here in California and in other states around America where when people turn the tap on in their kitchen, the water that comes out is toxic and not drinkable. In America, in your home, you should have clean drinking water. We're going to make that happen. And when we talk about infrastructure, it's not just roads and bridges and water systems. It is affordable housing. This is America. Half of our people should not have, in America, we should not have millions of people spending 50% of their limited incomes on housing. And we can put a lot of people to work building the affordable housing we desperately need. And when we talk about education, we are talking about a revolution in the way we do education in this country. Every psychologist will tell you that the most important years of human development are 0 through 4. And that is why we will have quality, universal, affordable child care for every family in America. And when we talk about education, we know that K through 12 free public education is not good enough. That's why we are going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. Right now in America, over 40 million people, including many in this room, are struggling with outrageous levels of student debt. Am I right? We're going to end that. People should not have to pay off outrageous levels of student debt for the crime, the so-called crime of getting a higher education. Several weeks ago, I am often told by my critics, they say, Bernie, you're a nice guy, you're promising free public education through college, you want to forgive student debt, how are you going to pay for all of these things? Well, I will tell you how. 10 years ago, the American people bailed out the crooks on Wall Street to the tune of $1 trillion. if we could bail out Wall Street, Wall Street can now help the working families of this country. And that is why we have will impose a transaction tax on Wall Street speculation. My Republican colleagues want to cut Social Security. They give tax breaks to billionaires, and then they say we got to cut Social Security. Well, we got news for them. We are not going to cut Social Security. We're going to expand Social Security benefits. And let me say a word on what may end up being the most important issue of all, because the future not only of our country but the world hangs in the balance on whether or not we are going to effectively combat climate change. And today we have the unbelievable, it really is quite unbelievable. Scientific community tells us that we have all of 12 years, not a long time, to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy, or else, they say, there will be irreparable harm to the planet. Irreparable harm, harm that cannot be undone. And yet we have a president and a fossil fuel industry who lie every single day. It seems to me that the issue we're dealing with here is not only an existential threat to our planet, it is a deeply moral issue. And that is the need to leave this planet to my 7 grandchildren and to future generations in a way that is healthy and habitable. And when we transform our energy system through a Green New Deal, we will create millions of good-paying jobs in transportation, in weatherization, in energy efficiency, and in sustainable energy. Now, here is my dream, and I don't know if it is achievable or not, but let me lay out a dream to you. And that dream is that at a time when the countries of the world are now spending about $1.5 trillion on weapons of destruction designed to kill each other, as your president, I will do my best to bring the countries of the world together to cut that military spending and use that money to combat climate change. Maybe that is wishful thinking. Maybe it is. I don't know. But think about a world where instead of building more nuclear weapons and poison gas and tanks and guns, China and Russia and India and Latin America and Africa and the United States are coming together to say, we are going to save this planet for our children and our grandchildren. And there's another issue that goes to my gut, and there's an issue that we have to deal with, and that is a broken criminal justice system. All of you know that in our great nation, the wealthiest nation on earth, we have more people in jail, disproportionately black and Latino and Native American, more people in jail than any other country on earth. We are spending $80 billion a year to lock up fellow Americans. So today we say to the prison industrial complex, whether you like it or not, we will bring about real criminal justice reform. Instead of spending billions to lock up fellow Americans, we are going to use that money to invest in our young people, in jobs and education. A kid who has a good job and good job training and good education is not going to end up in jail. It costs more money to put a kid in jail than send them to the University of California. Let's invest in our kids. And together, we are going to end the disgrace of private prisons and detention centers in this country. Corporations should not make profits by locking up fellow Americans. And together, we are going to end the horrifically destructive war on drugs. Four years ago, when I was here in California, and we talked about decriminalizing or legalizing the possession of marijuana, that was thought to be a very radical idea. Ain't so radical today. The people have spoken, and state after state is legalizing marijuana. And a number of communities are actually doing the right thing and expunging the records of those who are arrested for possession of marijuana. Too many lives have been destroyed because of our broken and racist criminal justice system, and together we're going to end that system. And I want to touch on another issue that I know is very important here in California, and it's important all over this country, and that is an equally broken immigration system. Yesterday, I was in Las Vegas, and I met quietly with 30, 35 young people. Many of them were undocumented. And what they explained to me is the fear that they feel and experience every single day, worrying about whether they or somebody in their family is going to be arrested and deported. A young man told me that some years ago, he's 17 I think, told me that a few years ago he was in a car, and the car was stopped by a police officer, and the police officer looked at them and said, "Are you documented or undocumented? Are you legal or not?" And they lied. Father lied and said, "We were documented." And the police officer said, "Okay, have a nice day." But what he understood, if that police officer on that day was not feeling particularly warm, that police officer could have arrested them and deported much of their family. And that is the situation for millions of people in this country, worrying every single day whether they will be deported or not. And then on top of that, they turn on the television, and you got a racist president who is demonizing the undocumented in this country. So what our job is severalfold. Number one, we must move forward toward comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship for those who are undocumented. Number two, we need to, once again, provide immediate legal protection for the 1.8 million young people in the DACA program. And number three, we need to develop a humane border policy for those who seek asylum. America must never be the country where babies are snatched from the arms of their mothers. That is not what this country is about. Brothers and sisters, we are here today because we face an unprecedented political challenge. And it is not quite clear in which direction this country will go. On one hand, under Trump, we will continue the drift toward oligarchy, in which a handful of billionaires have enormous power over our economic and political life. Under Trump, we will continue the drift toward an authoritarian government with a president who either does not understand the Constitution or has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. That is one direction. But we are united in saying that we are not going to go down that path. We have a different vision for America. We have a different vision, and our vision is a vision which believes in democracy, a vibrant democracy, where we respect each other's point of view, but where billionaires are not buying elections. Our vision is respect for the Constitution, not movement to an authoritarian form of society. Our vision is economic justice, where all of our men, women, and children, young and old, can enjoy a decent standard of living with decent jobs, decent health care, and an environment which is healthy, not toxic. Now let me conclude by telling you what very few, if any, other candidates will tell you. And that is that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. Because to bring about real change in this country, it's not just defeating Donald Trump, it is taking on the entire corporate power structure of this country. If we want to break up the large Wall Street banks, we're going to have to take on enormous power in Wall Street. If we want Medicare for all, we're going to have to take on the drug companies and the insurance companies. If we want to transform our energy system, we have to take on the fossil fuel industry. If we want to cut military spending, we have to take on the military-industrial complex. If we want and will have the wealthiest people and largest corporations paying their fair share of taxes, we have to take on the 1%. So what this campaign is about is not just winning the Democratic primary. We got to do that. It's not just defeating Trump. We must do that. But it is taking on the greed of powerful special interests who think they own this country. And what we are saying today is that the working people of this country, black and white and Latino, Native American, Asian American, have had it up to here. We want decent paying jobs. We want health care for all. We want to make sure our kids get all the education they need. We want a clean environment. We want equal pay for equal work. We want to address the crisis of climate change. We want criminal justice reform. We want immigration reform. And brothers and sisters, if we are prepared to stand up to a president who is trying to divide us up, if we are prepared to stand together, not only will we win the White House, but together we will transform this country, which is what we have to do. Thank you all very much.